Okay, welcome to Real Guitar Live. Today we have Felix on guitar, and I'm me hiding in the background.
Hey guys.
So you're going to stick your head in here pretty soon. I'm going to start off with a training today on the 12-bar blues, and I want to get down to the essence of 12-bar blues. There are three elements that make blues sound like blues, and from that place, you can add all kinds of embellishments. To start off with, we have the structure of the blues. The structure is the basic form of the 12-bar blues. In 12-bar blues, the structure is 12 bars. In this case, we're going to do it in the key of E, and we're going to use 3 chords. I'm alert. I'm going to do just a little bit of music theory. In the 12-bar blues, the basic form uses 3 chords out of the key. So if we're in the key of E, the first chord in the key of E is the 1 chord. So we're going to call that the 1 chord. We're also going to use the 4 chord, and I get that by just counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, E, F, G, A. Actually F sharp, but don't worry about that. A is the 4 chord in the key of E, and the 5 chord was past A, B, yes, B. So for the key of E, we're using the 1, 4, and 5 chord. In any key, you can do that. If we wanted to change the whole thing over to the key of D, we just start with D for the 1, D, E, F, G for the 4, and A for the 5. G, A, right? Starts over. Same thing in any other key. So the 12-bar blues starts off with a 1 chord. For us, it's going to be E. Go ahead and let's do this. We're going to do 12 bars. 1 strum per bar for right now. So 2 strums, 2 bars. Now 2 bars of the 4 chord, or A. Yeah. And then back to 2 bars of the 1 chord. So we got 6 bars. We're halfway through. Now we're going through a cycle. A 5 chord. In this case, I'm going to use a B7. To the A chord. To the 1 chord. And end on the 5 chord. So that's the basic structure of a 12-bar blues. It's 12 bars long, and it uses just the 1, 4, and 5 chord. I'm going to elaborate on that. Next, I want to talk about harmony. What makes blues sound blues is often using extended chords. That means instead of using just the regular E chord, we extend it by adding like a 7th, 9th, 13th, something like that. We're going to start with the most basic form of extending and turn it into an E7. So all the chords we're going to turn to a 7, and that'll make it sound a bit more bluesy. Listen for a minute. Sounds more bluesy already. Now, I'm going to play with you together. I'll call out the chords. We're going to play that 12-bar blues using 7ths. Now, you count out, everybody count out 12 bars. Here we go. 1, 2, start with E7. Ready, go. 1 bar, 2 bars. To A7, 3rd bar, 4th bar, back to E7, 5th bar, 6th bar, B7, 7th bar, A7, 8th bar, E7, 9th bar, and 10th bar. I lost 2 bars. Where'd they go? Let's add the strum. I'll get the bar back. I have to hear the whole blues. The rhythm. Rhythm in blues is often a shuffle or swing strum. So this, what I was doing is straight. Oops, straight. Blues has a shuffle feel. Da, 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 da. So it sounds like this. 1, 2. So I'm using a strum. I'll call it a shuffle mute strum because I'm putting a dampening effect in there. So it's down, up, mute. And I'm muting by palming the strings with my palm and going down with a pick. So it's down, up, mute, up, down, up, mute, up. And that was 1 bar right there. So now we're going to count them again with that strum. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2. That's 1 bar, 2 bars. 3 bars. And 4 bars. Back to 5 bars. 6, 7, 7, and 8. It's still lost. I still don't end up with 12 bars. Let me think about this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Oh, here's where I lost it. 3, 4. There's 4 bars of the 1 chord. Let's do it again.
Okay.
We're going to do it for real this time. By the way, the 10-bar blues is a variation, and it's a good variation. But I want to teach you the basic form of 12 bars, and then you can make variations off of that. Now we'll do the 12 bars. And I lost the 2 bars right after that A7. I did 2 bars of back to the 1 chord, the E7. Should have been 4 bars.
Okay.
Here we go. Ready, go. 1, 2, A7, 4 chord, 3, and 4, back to the 1 chord. 6, and 2 more, this. And 8, now the East B7. A7, 9, 10, to the E7, 11, 10 to 12, E7. Good. So now we've got the basic form of 12 bars with 7th chords. Sounds like blues with that shuffle strum.
Right.
I'm ready to take it up a notch. First of all, I want to show you an intro lick. This makes blues sound cool. And we can use that intro lick in other places. So here's the basic lick. So we'll start off 2nd and 3rd fingers on the 2nd and 3rd strings. 2nd finger goes on the 3rd fret, and the 3rd finger goes on the 4th fret on the 3rd string. Good. So it sounds like that. And we hit the 3rd string and then back pick on the 1st and 2nd. I do it sometimes with my fingers. I'll do the thumb.
Okay.
So I'll do it, pick, you do it with your fingers.
Okay.
3rd string, 1st, 2nd, slide down to the 1 fret. Good, so you're on the 3rd fret now. Again. Slide down again, 1 fret. Now here's a lick, and it's in the shuffle groove. 1st fret on the 2nd string, hit, and pull off. 3rd string, 2nd fret, and then make an E chord. Okay, we'll go that far. Let's do it again. I'm using, I find it a little easier with my 1st fingers there, because when I get down to the bottom, I want my 1st finger right there. Ready, go. Down the fret. Good, down. Now pull off 2nd string. And then 2nd finger on the 3rd string, and then make E chord. So, and then I got my 1st finger there. Let's do that part right there, that ending part. It's a 3rd string, 1st fret. And then, so with the 2nd string, do that again. Ready, go. Now the whole thing, starting from the 1st and 2nd finger on 4th fret, 3rd fret. Ready, go. 2nd string. Now we're going on, so we're going to strum there. And here's the end of it. Just that much. Open 5th string, 1st finger, and when the 2nd finger lands, you make a B7 chord. Again, ready, go. we're going to go from the E and back into it a little bit. E, strum once. So the strum is dun, 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 and then the bass note. Start with E chord.
Okay.
Ready, go. Open fifth, first finger, and then same thing. Again, ready, go, E chord. By the way, I have this all written out, so you don't have to worry about getting perfect now. You can go after this, probably I'll have it up by tomorrow, and download the exact tabs for this. So let's start from the beginning now, starting the 4th fret and 3rd frets. Ready, go. Down, down, and first, second string, strum, open 5th string. Let's do it again. Ready, go. Pull up. Strum. 5th string. And then we go into the blues. A7. And back to the E. And E again. Now B7. A7. And here comes the lick. Whoops. E7. Okay, let's jazz it up just a little more. For those of you who this comes fairly easy, we're going to take it a notch higher. If this is where you're at, please just download the tabs when they're available. It'll take me till tomorrow to get them up there. And keep fooling around, watch the video, work with the tabs. So we're going to add some forms of E7. I want every measure to have something different. Instead of just keep playing the E7 for 2 measures, I want to change the form. So there's a couple forms of E7 we could use to add a little movement. This is the simple form. Another form is to put the pinky down on the 2nd string, 3rd fret. That makes a more exaggerated 7th sound because that's the 7th note and it's higher, so you hear it more easily. So that's also an E7, but you can hear the difference from here to here. It kind of brings things to the top, the 7th note. Now, same thing with A7. I can make the A7, I'm going to use my 2nd and 3rd finger because you need the pinky. That's a nice A7, but if you want to make it more exaggerated, put the pinky on the 3rd fret, 1st string. Now again, that brings the 7th to the higher pitch to the top, and it really sticks out. Now, here's the other thing. We can substitute a chord in that last A7, and you don't have to worry about where it is right now. Instead of going to an A7, we're going to do this. E7, listen to a C7. And the C7 is a substitute for the A7. It gives a little push on the edge of bluesy sound. So let's try this new, improved version of the blues. Let's start with the intro. Ready, go. Pull. And go to B7. To the E7. That's one bar. Now the 2nd E7. Back to E7. Simple form, we'll call that. And 2nd version. Now A7. Do it again, E7. Now the B7. C7, up a fret. And back down. Ending. One more time. A7. E7. Pinky. Let's do it again. E7. Upper fret. Now. It's okay, ending. That's very good, actually. First time through. I wrote this whole thing down just as we did with the extended version is what I call it. So if you're ready for that, you'll see 3 downloads, the intro on one, the basic form, which I call in the raw, blues in the raw in E, and then the extended version, which has the intro and the extended chords added to it. So we have the pattern, 12 bars long, composed of basic harmony, 3 chords, turned to 7s. Normally, the chords in a key would be the E major, the A major, and B major, but we've turned that to E7, A7, and B7 to give it a more bluesy sound. And then finally, we've added a shuffle strum to it, and that gives a blues sound. Now, to take it up a notch, we added some embellishments, substitute chords, an intro that we use as an outro as well. Okay, any questions about this so far?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Any other questions that I could answer?
Yeah, we actually have quite a few.
Oh, good.
All right, let's see here. So we have some of our online folks who are joining us from YouTube. Somebody was saying that they're having problems holding bar chords as their fingers are too small.
Ha! Welcome to the club. First of all, that's a fairly common problem, bar chords. You and I have not so much small fingers, but I've had people who have all kinds of fingers bigger than mine that say the fingers are too big. I've had people that say the fingers are too fat. Too small is a common one. And sometimes, especially people who are like old like me, say my fingers don't move so good. I have found from years of teaching students that for the most part, people exaggerate in their mind their particular problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem, I'm just saying it's exaggerating in their mind. They're having a hard time learning something that's difficult for anybody to learn. It just takes time and patience and practice. And they obviously assume that it must be something wrong with them, their fingers or their age or their lack of coordination or something. Most of the time, in the future, if they keep practicing, they look back on it and say, why did I ever think that? But I will say that there are some things you can do, and I would recommend doing them to get to that place where you can look back and say, gee, small fingers, fat fingers, old fingers, it didn't really stop me. One of the things with small fingers is I would look at getting a guitar with a small neck. And acoustic guitars, I mean steel string type acoustics, have smaller necks than a nylon string guitar. This is a wider neck. The thing with nylon strings, they're easier to press down than the steel strings. So it's kind of a trade-off. One thing you can do is get a steel string guitar like this and put silk and steel strings on it. They're a string that's kind of soft, so you can get the thin neck of a steel string, but the soft feel of a nylon string. And as your fingers get stronger and you get more confidence, you can always go and put the steel strings back on the steel string guitar. You can't really put steel strings, by the way, on a classical guitar. That doesn't work because of the neck. But you can, if you have a steel string guitar, you can always put steel strings back. And the reason people like steel strings is also because the sound, sometimes it's just the sound they're looking for. Most pop, rock, country music is played with steel strings.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Oh, I feel like you hit it right on the nail. It's really just like putting in the practice, taking things slow, and finding the way that you can do it. Yeah, just work with what you've got with yourself, and you'll get there.
Have you ever, I mean, you have long fingers, but have you ever, when you couldn't get something, have you ever thought that something's wrong with me, or your fingers are too long maybe, or?
No, it always occurred to me, it's just like it's something I have to work at and get the technique, develop the muscle memory. Because it's just something my fingers aren't familiar with doing, but you can get there.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I can think about that question.
Yeah, and actually we got that same question from one of our RGS members, Michael, so I just want to give a quick shout out to Michael.
Okay.
Struggling
Hey, Michael.
with the same thing. I have a couple of other YouTubers with questions. Somebody was saying they want to know about relative chords.
I don't know what that means. What is a relative chord? And if you're on live on YouTube, maybe you could ask that another way or add to that in some form or fashion. Because as it is, it's not a term I'm familiar with, and it would be pretty general too.
Yeah.
Maybe tell me what you're trying to do, and I could figure out better how that relates to it.
Great, I'm asking Surab now.
Okay. Maybe you can tell me the next question.
Yeah,
And then-
absolutely. So, our next question is it better to learn playing with your thumb or a plectrum?
Neither. Ideally, you could play with anything. I've seen somebody on YouTube play with their toes. I just thought that was the coolest thing.
Oh.
But I've seen great people play with their, not just their thumb, but their fingers and their thumb using. And I've seen equally wonderful people play with a pick. Ideally, I would think you'd want to be able to do both. I often start beginners just using their thumbs to strum down, just so they don't have to worry about dropping the pick. And when students usually start, the pick flies out of their hand. So I'm trying to narrow down the difficulties. I normally, when I play a nylon string guitar, I use my thumb and fingers. It's just, the nylon strings lend themselves to techniques I can do with my thumb and fingers. I can do, the strings are wider too, by the way, so it's easier for me to get my fingers between the strings. With a steel string guitar, I almost always start with a pick, but I can still use my fingers even with a pick. I do a finger picking with a pick, and then I can go right into strumming. I can get a better strum usually on the steel string, especially with a pick, a smoother strum. On the nylon string, I use my fingers, the outside of my nails, and my thumb to strum, like this. So I'm turning my hand, nail, and then nail. I'm not just using the flesh of my thumb, which is soft, and it's going to make kind of a mushy sound. I don't do that on the steel string, even though it sounds okay. It's because sooner or later I'm going to break my nails or chip my nails. The nylon string doesn't do that. Any thoughts on that?
No,
Did you start with a pick?
I started with a little bit of both. I was always interested in finger picking, so I would focus on that, but I also wanted to learn how to pick and strum, so I would agree, learn how to do both.
If you're playing lead guitar, it generally works better for me with a pick.
Definitely.
But Mark Knopfler, I don't know if everybody knows who Mark Knopfler is. He's easy, money for nothing. Money for nothing. Well, anyway, he uses his fingers on a steel string electric guitar, and it sounds great. I started out with my fingers because I was playing classical guitar, and I really wanted to be able to play classical music, which you have to use all your fingers and your thumb, and sometimes feels like I needed extra limbs I didn't have.
Yeah.
How about you, Ami? Did you start out with your fingers?
Yeah, I'm definitely not a guitarist. So when I first started trying to teach myself when I was 13, I started with like a pick, and then I just quickly put it down. I just didn't like the feel of it. It felt really artificial. It felt clunky and in the way. And it felt like I knew how to hold it right without getting a weird sound on the guitar. And then after I quit guitar and started ukulele, it really made sense to only do finger style, because there are ukulele picks, but they're made of felt or leather, and they're just clunky and make it sound a little unnatural. So I'm definitely a proponent for finger picking and using your fingers.
So bottom line is, there's no right or wrong. I would suggest if you're a brand new beginner, just start getting in the chords and then at least try a pick, because may find out that sound is really what you're looking for, and it's worth it to just get used to holding it right. And there are, by the way, specific lessons on my YouTube website that show you how to use a pick and how to get a good sound with a pick. Okay, next.
Yeah, next question. So Cornelius says, can you please explain all the 7 shapes of the major scales?
7 shapes of the major scale. So I think you might be asking about the chord forms based on each note in the major scale. I would be glad to. Sounds like we're up for a little theory lesson. Okay, I won't make this too long, but let's do the basic scale. I'm going to call a scale starting with C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The musical alphabet always goes in a circle. I know most of you know this, just to make sure. So it goes up to G and it starts over in A. So a basic scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, would be a C scale. That's what it sounds like. Or on the open strings. Each note, we're going to give a number just to identify it in the scale, its position. So C is 1, B is 2, D is 3, and so on. If you build a chord on each of those notes, using notes right out of the scale, they're going to naturally fall into either a major or minor category, except for that 7. I want to deal with the first 6 chords because they're by far 90% of what people are using. The first one, 1, is always going to be major. The 4 chord's always going to be major. And the 5 chord's always going to be a major chord. So you can say the 1, 4, and 5, 1, 4, and 5 in the key of C would be C, D, E, F, and then G. 1, 4, 5, C, F, and G. C major, F major, and G major. Now, all the other ones are minor, except for that 7th degree. So that means the 2 chord is going to be C, D minor. The 3 chord is going to be E, E minor. F is major. 5 chord is major. And then 6 chord, A minor. So if we were to play it, it'd be C, D minor, E. Oh, that was a nice chord. I like that chord. That was not quite E minor, but I think that was E minor 9.
There we go. I am always mixing them up.
E minor, F major, G major, and A minor. So the 7th, if you build notes right out of the scale, is going to be a diminished chord. And 90% of the people just don't bother with it. But if you're playing jazz or a little more advanced, you need your diminished chords, as well as other more exotic chords. Hope that answers the question. I'm never 100% sure with short questions like that if I'm hitting it on the money.
Yeah, and Cornelius actually just said, can you please ask Thomas to explain in a running ascending scale, you have 1 Roman numeral and going up halfway through it goes to 2nd Roman numeral, to explain how you relate to that.
I don't understand that question. Maybe you could ask it another way. It doesn't click with me. Does that make sense to you?
Not quite.
No, okay.
Okay.
So yeah, just ask another way or...
Yeah. And Surov, by the way, the person with the relative chord question means, by relative chords, I mean chords like C and A minor, D and B minor when played together.
Okay, so it's, when you say relative C and A minor, you're talking about the relative minor key based off of a major key. So you can find a minor key based off a major key by going up to the 6th degree. So we call relative minor because it uses all the exact same notes. So in a C scale, if you count up to 6, C, D, E, F, G, A, the relative minor of the C scale would be A minor scale. And it uses all the same notes, but starts on A. So let me see. A, C, D, E, F, G, A. That's A minor scale. But all the exact same notes as C. If I just start on C, I have to keep going to make it sound like a whole scale. Exact same notes. So any key would be the same as take D. D would be the major scale, D major. You go up to the 6th degree, D, E, F, G, A, B. B minor is the relative minor. So if you take all the exact same notes, start on B, end on B, it's going to sound like B minor scale. And we call that the relative minor of D. B minor is the relative minor scale to D. So that's what I know about that. If there's something else about that, I'd be glad to answer it too. But you could ask another question.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I have Tony, one of our RGS members.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Tony.
When I make an A minor chord, I'm okay with the fingering. When I try to add a G in the bass with my pinky, as in Dusty, finger picking pattern number 2, my third finger collapses and pushes the string down instead of into the fretboard. Any suggestions for exercises to cure this, or is this just poor technique?
Well, sounds like it's poor technique, but to fix poor technique, you would want exercises, I would think. If your third finger is collapsing, I know what he's talking about. It's an A minor chord and he wants to put the G in the bass. Most people have problems with the pinky, by the way, there. My guess would be, and it's hard to say unless I was actually seeing you play it, my guess would be is your hand that's up too high or something. Because I can see when my hand goes up high, I generally want to collapse my first knuckle. So you want to relax your arm, let your arm hang a little bit, and your hand come a little outside so that the fingers are coming up and down on the neck. Then when you put your G over, these fingers don't have such a strain. If I'm this way, I really have to stretch over and I'm going to want to manipulate things. So yeah, push the hand so it's a little more out this way. Now in general, I would recommend at a level that you're at, if you're making an A minor with a G in the bass, you're not a brand new beginner, you want to do some exercises that will strengthen your fingers in general. And I would recommend probably at your level doing a finger developer that uses the pinky, something like this. Go very slow, get your fingers close to the fret, and keep looking that your fingers are all nice and angled. So the idea is not to go fast here. The idea is to get it just right and to do it evenly and go as slow as you need to do that. And then little by little you can pick up speed. It's going to strengthen your fingers, but it's also going to teach your fingers how to get nice and close to the frets in the right form without having to think too hard about making different chords or different forms. You can focus on the subtle details. By the way, this is the exercise I use with the pinky, but if you've been playing enough, you can move that down here. It's a bigger stretch, so you'll find as you go down the frets, it gets to be a bigger and bigger stretch. So you decide where you're at, where you want to start with. I suggest starting the 5th fret and move it down and see where you're at.
Cool.
And keep practicing, Tony.
All right, and Cornelius, the person who was asking about the 7 positions, kind of clarified and said 7 positions of major scales. I'm assuming they mean finger positions while you're playing major scales or patterns.
No, I still don't understand that.
Okay.
7 positions of a major scale.
Oh, maybe he's talking about like when you play like a C in your first position, or then you move up, you can play
moving
a
up
C
the neck?
here. Yeah, maybe he's talking about moving up the neck.
I'm not comfortable with that. I don't really do that. I use this major scales. When I play my scales, I play them in positions that are most useful for me. And I really play things that I'm going to be able to use and fairly new. Yeah. So I have done scales all the way up and down the neck, but I don't currently do that. And I wouldn't teach a student to start playing the major scale in all 7 positions. Right. Unless there was some reason I can't think of right now.
Okay. Lastly, we have one RGS member who asked for some tips on soloing.
Soloing. The biggest tip I can get about soloing, people who solo well hear the music in their head and their finger goes to the note. Now, it didn't start out that way. What's happening is they've educated themselves over time by practicing enough to where the finger and the sound are connected. In other words, when you think of sound, the finger knows how to get there without having to think about it. One of the best ways to do that is to spend a little time, I'd say every day, soloing with a background track. Start simple, maybe with a background track with just a couple chords. Nowadays you can get background tracks all over the YouTube, the internet, but I always made my own. I would always just get a recorder, now I do it on a computer, and just record a rhythm in the key that I want to play, starting with maybe just even one chord, and then solo with a scale that fits with that chord. And listen and pick notes that you like. The other side of that, I was listening to artists, and I'd hear things I like, and I'd try to imitate them when I went to my solo session. Soloing is not an intellectual concept. I found this out the hard way. When I was a young man playing in a band, I had a friend and her boyfriend at the time, who was a very good musician, a great trumpeter and soloist, played with lots of great artists, come listen to the band. And later, he gave me a critique that says, you seem to know your stuff, but your soloing sounds like you're playing a lot of scales, because I was thinking about what notes to play and not really trying to hear the music and duplicate it on my guitar. So you start out playing scales and try them, but you have to have enough experience playing with chord changes to make decisions on what sounds good and what doesn't, and then do that over and over. Soloing is basically a combination of playing licks and scales and doing it in a way that sounds musical. Sometimes it could be just one or two notes, not trying to play a lot of notes. I would suggest, matter of fact, go lighter and make something that sounds musical than a lot of notes that sounds like you're trying to be technical.
Cool. We got another question from Antonio, a YouTuber, who says, D and F sharp chord. What's the best way to play it? I'm struggling with the positioning of the fingers.
Is that a D with an F sharp?
Right.
Or a D and an F sharp chord?
Good question. Antonio, put
So,
in the chat. Tell me which one it is.
Here's a D chord. Here's a D chord with an F sharp in the bass. That's a common chord. I like this chord. I use it a lot, especially with finger picking like this. Actually, the form I often use with finger picking, I don't use this third finger that I just do like this. Yeah, I can't actually see this way, but that's the chord I was aiming at right there.
Yeah, that's the one I have most often.
Second finger on the second fret of the sixth string, third finger on the third string, second fret, and then the pinky down here on the second string, third fret. And see, I'm not hitting that high E string. If I need that high E for like strumming, I'm gonna need to make it this way. It's basically a D with my second, third, and pinky, and then I stretch over. Some people make it like this, and you might do this.
Oh yeah, I can do that one.
That's fairly common. Oh, you do it with your pinky and thumb?
Well, either way, Either way. But actually, this doesn't feel as comfortable for me as.
Okay.
I don't know.
So that's a possibility. I prefer this way because I don't like switching my hand like this back and forth with chord. And some people play bar chords. I've seen people play like a bar chord like this before. So you have to switch everything all around. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, Antonio says that's exactly what the question was.
I got it! Nailed it!
Got it. Thanks.
You're very welcome.
Cool.
Thanks, Antonio.
Well, I think those are all the questions for now. I think it's time for a raffle.
Okay, so every month we have a raffle for our Real Guitar Success members, and we're raffling a $50 Amazon gift certificate. These are people who have completed a series of 20 lessons or exercises in the month, and there's like one a day, and it's designed to give you something to practice in 10 minutes. So all they have to do is basically go through the exercise in 10 minutes. If something they love and want to come back at, you can favor it. Otherwise, you check it off, say complete, move on to the next one. So it's designed to keep people moving and to trying some new things. And every month I cycle through a variety of type of lessons, theory, some chord exercises, finger style, basic scales, and some of them are kind of combined licks. So these people are in a hat. Where's the hat?
Here's the hat.
I'll hold the hat and you close your eyes and shake it out and we'll see. We put them in the drawing and one of them wins a $50 Amazon gift card. And this month, the winner is...
The winner is Joseph Willett.
Joseph Willett, congratulations!
Congrats.
You are the winner of the Amazon, $50 Amazon gift card, and even more, congratulations for spending the time and progressing on your guitar playing.
Congrats.
That's it for today. We're going to close up. Thank you for joining me, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful... We'll be back next month. Bye for now. Oh, she says she doesn't know how to stop it.
I don't know how to do it. This isn't my normal job.